Action.
Okay, gentlemen of Brotherhood of the Wolf, I'm here with another interview with one of our brothers, and this is Chris, and I know him as Yogi Chris. That's his name in my phone, Yogi Chris. And I want to do an interview with him. I've known Chris, I think, about a year. I'm not really sure. It's been about a year. And I originally met Chris he did a one-on-one with me, and he's been doing almost, everything. He probably missed a few here or there, I don't know. He's bought all my products. One of the few people. There's, I think, 4 people on the planet who bought all of them. He's one of them. And I've seen just such an enormous transformation. And there was a moment when we were in Las Vegas, and I was sitting across the table. This was when Zapar was new to my life, the beginning of it. And he was speaking to Vince, my brother Vince Kelvin. And I got a real clear image in that moment. I just saw, like, a superimposed image of what I saw his power or greatness from my perspective was. And I told him, I think, after that, what my vision was that I saw. And, hold on. Okay. And the reason I want to talk to Chris is that in regards to yoga, and I'm somebody who loves yoga, as you saw I did the interview with Pablo. I love style, it's part of it, and yoga is something I've had a deep passion for. In fact, my old teacher Manu, he had a deep passion for yoga, and there's many stories of that actually. But to get on with it for the introduction, the way I know Chris is one of the top students. I contacted him about a month and a half ago, and I asked him if he wanted to be a coach in Seductive Instinct for a program called the Silent Flute. We're still in the works with that, and I've seen how good he is at what he does. I know the skill level that it takes, and more than that, he's owned the beingness of a yogi, and I love that shit because I can see him getting women now. I can see the lifestyle now, and I see the future of it. And so I wanted to do an interview with him to get a perspective into his life, so you guys get to know him. And also, I'm sure he's going to have some insights, just like the other interview that I did, that is going to bring some value to your life, okay? So, Chris, thank you, brother, for joining in this interview.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, brother. So I want to get started right away, and I want to ask you this basic question. Why yoga?
For me?
Oh.
Why yoga for me?
Yeah, why yoga? I mean, how would you answer that? You've dedicated your life to it, and you go around teaching it. Why yoga?
Well, mine is a kind of a dark and gloomy perspective because I came to yoga with a heavy wrestling background, and there was a lot of experiences that I had with intense periods of fasting and being so nutritionally famished. It takes your consciousness to a certain place.
Yeah.
And so when I came to yoga, which was just my posture deteriorating, and I felt I needed some form of exercise. I had sworn off all exercise after wrestling because I fucking hated it. And I found a lot of that same experience. And I later came to realize that this was kind of a mini micro death, if you will. It was a micro death of the ego. And that puts a lot of things into perspectives. And maybe we'll get into it, but I've come to understand death as not a negative thing. It's actually a very joyous thing. And it's something inevitable for all of us, obviously. And so my practice largely revolves around preparing for that inevitability in a way that I can bring those perspectives and then give them to people so that they're better prepared. And that channeling of that experience, of the death experience, opens new horizons for me to have deeper understandings of whatever it is that the experience of death does. So I know it's being kind of vague, but basically there's an objective perspective of our life and our connections to other people, our connections to our environment, our place in it. that dawns upon us when we stop being so attached to what we think we are and what we think our connections are. And that's a very spacious, blissful, it feels terrific. And it feels wonderful to impart that to other people. So that's why yoga for me it's all about that. It's all about preparing for death, which is really preparing for life.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. When you say that, it brings me to one of the alchemy laws, the 7 alchemy laws, and it has to do with this universe of opposites, polar opposites, up and down, left and right, sound and silence, day and night, man and woman, and life and death. And when you gain a deep understanding of one pole, you cannot deny the other pole. So, for example, for myself, as this is now has come up, ever since I was a child, I've always thought about death. Every single day, I think about death more times than I can tell you. It literally would be in the maybe thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, because every other thought accompanies in my mind death. And what I mean, when I say bye to my girlfriends, I think about this could be the last stop. When I think about my parents, the first thought that comes is they're getting old, they're going to die. I think about my niece. I think about what happens if something happens, God forbid, to their fucking parents or me or something, right? And it's always there. It's always there. It's always been there for me, always been there. And I tried to change it. I tried to get rid of it. And I realized at some point, as I became more mature in my power, I realized that because of that, I had such a drive for life because I knew death was right around the corner, and as you said, it was inevitable. It was going to happen. And people are walking around with their eyes shut as if it's not going to happen. One of my quotes that's been quoted many times is I say, the problem is you think you have tomorrow, and I know I don't. I live as if two simultaneous things, as if I'm going to die right after this, and as if I'm going to live forever, which is the two opposite poles. So my energy is very simple. It's eternal, yet in this moment, I'm going to live as if I'm going to die. So I really get what you're saying, and I'm saying that because sometimes people will listen. I got what you were saying because I understand what I just said, right?
Yeah.
Now, it brought up a question for me, because I know you teach a lot of people. What have you seen it do for your students? What are some benefits you've seen the way you teach yoga, which is actually very important for people to understand, is that when you came for the one-on-one, I don't know if you came from university or something, I've seen you a couple of times here, it was very key for me to pass on to you, look, I want to see, as Manu had said to me, I'm trying to say it, we should look at it, Manu, I said, let's see how you do it. I'm tired of the fucking yoga out here. You had a very unique perspective that I could feel and I could see, and I was excited to hear it. So what has your yoga done for students that you've seen so far?
Well, first I got to say that it's hard to come by good students. It's hard to come by students that have that spark of dedication. And so understanding that not very many students have come immensely far, what I've really seen in the ones that have put in the most time is much more contentment. They're so much more relaxed. It's as if there's less doubt of their position in life, and so they walk around. You see it in their face. Their face is softer. Their cheekbones rest more easily on their head, and less gets to them. They're more playful, but at the same time less. I want to avoid using the word attached, but they don't take things personally as much, because, as you said, it's impermanent. It's whatever happens to you, you only carry it with you if you choose to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, we're obviously, this video is made for Brotherhood of the Wolf, and I know you asked me if you could use this in your YouTube channel. Absolutely. Yeah. So. But I'm keeping it in that perspective. So if people are watching on a YouTube channel, they should understand. Yeah. This is a men's group, only men, men of caliber, men of all kinds of backgrounds, from real estate to artists to musicians to styles to personal development coaches, everything, right? The best thing of the crop. And so from that perspective, and the fact that I am a a representation of the energy of seduction and communication, you could say. From this perspective, how has your yoga influenced your interaction with women in two? I'm gonna break it down a little bit more. In one is, how do you deal with, in quotes, rejection, and has yoga helped you with that? One. And two, how has it helped you understand the female psyche better, if so? I'm curious about both of those things, starting with the rejection. And if there's anything else, also we'll go right to it afterwards. But those two are main points: is people, they don't know how to deal with rejection, it fucks them up. And secondly, is they can't really listen. Seduction requires you to pay attention. So go ahead.
Yeah. So first, dealing with rejection is a frame, is a perspective, and in yoga psychology, there is your physical body, your energy body. You have a mental body that is more like a snapshot, like a state of mind, and a belief body, which is more of repetitive mind thoughts that have become grooves in our psyche, samskaras they might call it.
Okay.
And the feelings that become stirred up at a rejection, or when someone doesn't accept what we're presenting them, that's a belief. There's some belief there about that they should not be rejecting me. And there's other types of psychology and frameworks that can describe this, but what's useful about the yoga method is that then when I go back to my mat or whatever my ritual is and I commune with myself once again, I'm giving myself the space and the opportunity to investigate this belief and perform alchemy on myself in my own safe space. And so the process of going...
How do you view rejection? How do you view rejection? You talk to a girl and it doesn't go as planned, right? She gives you not the best reaction. How do you deal with it?
There's two ways I see it. One is either she's not qualified to see my value, which is no contempt for her. It's just where she's at. I need a more qualified candidate. Or the second perspective is there's some way I could have communicated differently that would have assisted her to see the value. Maybe she wanted to see my value. She wanted to see the goodness of our interaction, of our potential for a future. But I didn't present it in the right way. And so I use the social interaction as... And it's very cool because I was using this term I'm about to say, and then within a week I heard you and some of your coaches also start using it, but we weren't collaborating, so it was like, I love when that happens. The interaction is a mirror of yourself. Her reaction is a mirror reflection of my action. And it also, a little ingredient of that is what she's bringing to it. She has her own past history and dispositions and whatever. So you got to look at a lot of mirrors because, and you've said this before, if you only look at a few mirrors, they might be some fucked up mirrors, and they might be giving you a distorted image of yourself, like if you're at a circus and you saw some circus mirrors. So you got to interact with lots of people to get lots of reflections of yourself, because only when you examine a diamond from each perspective can you determine its value. And that's what we're looking for, is self-value, self-esteem. And so rejection is it's another end. It's a point on the life cycle of birth, life, old age, death, rebirth. The rejection is just the death of that interaction. Not permanently. It could be reborn again if you reopen the set later, for example, or you meet that person again. So, the rejection it's fodder for my practice. It's fodder for my spiritual practice. It stirs something in me. I go and take that, and even when it stirs, now the frame is, and I get this. It's tweaked a little from Vince. That great. It stirred something in me. Now I got something to go home and do some alchemy with, and it's a not successful evening out, or it's a not successful social endeavor if I get nothing new to take home to grow from. That's kind of boring. And so, and on the flip side, the multiple interactions, the lots of interactions, is a reminder of the impermanence of all things, because all things come to the end. The long-term relationship comes to the end. The short relationship comes to the end, or the minute interaction comes to an end.
Yes.
And also my emotions through all of those scenarios, they too come to an end. And
Yes.
so it's a constant reminder of impermanence, and eventually we become that steady datum for all of
Yes.
these other fluctuations to orbit around. And so
Yes.
a daily practice of some sort of yoga, there's lots of yoga techniques, it just brings us back to that place where we can stay that constant, and then rejection becomes just, I wouldn't cry that the fruit fell from the tree. I wouldn't cry that the tree died. And I won't cry when my dog dies. And all of these things are just points on a life cycle.
Yes.
So the second thing, the second question was, remind me?
How to help you understand their psychology better. However, before you move on, I wanted to make a point with what you said.
Cool.
So there's in India. In India, it's one of the oldest. It's one of the oldest understandings that comes from India, from the Vedas, which is what you said, which is the cycle of birth, growth, decay, and death. And you said that after that we get new birth, right? And that the rejection could be like a little death, and then there could be a new birth afterwards. And that's vital, because the reason why I am so fascinated by people and their minds, and you could say the flavor of their minds. As I'm getting a better flavor of you right now as I'm speaking to you, is just that. If you guys are watching this right now, that's something that you can apply to seduction. In that, every birth will have a death, and every death has a birth. This is the cycle, right? And it's known. So if you see your interactions as you open, birth, and then there's growth, you try to make it work, and then there's a decay, because at some point you gotta be like, I'll talk to you later. And then even if it goes positive and you exchange numbers and set up a day 2, this is now death of the interaction, which creates a new birth. Or birth, you open the interaction, and the growth of it is, she goes, I'm sorry, it's not happening. That's still movement from nothing to there's movement, which is growth, is movement. And then it starts to decay. You go, okay, well, fine, I'll talk to you later. Or, shit, I'm just going to walk away. That's the decay of it. Death, you're not talking anymore. Now watch this. Knowing now that the cycle of life can actually be applied, you got to go, okay, what is this going to give birth to? And you look around, and you go, now, after every death, there has to be a birth. What is it going to give birth to? To another interaction? Or maybe I reopen her again. The season changes. Yeah. The tree won't always grow. Some trees only grow, I have a pomegranate tree in my house, and it doesn't always give fruit. But at the right season, it gives fruit. And if you don't pick it, the fruit falls and fucks up. If you pick it too early, there's a time for it. So it's fascinating, as you were saying that, I get, okay, this can be applied to seduction in this way. And I'm presenting that, not that everyone should go grab it. However, if what I just presented moves you emotionally, then that would be something for you to apply now based on this. Second question was, how, if so, has it helped you gain a better understanding of the female psychology? If so, if not, that's fine. I'm just curious.
It's a difficult thing to assess exactly how yoga has helped me, because what I would really need is a twin brother who had the same place as me when I began and didn't go down the path of yoga, and then 5 years later or whatever see how he's different. So what I can say is that more and more recently, especially in the last year since I've personally known you, and especially since January, I see people more as almost not their physical bodies. I see almost like a computer program. It's almost like unseen. I see walking computer programs. I see walking egos, if you will,
sure,
with beliefs attached to them. So they're like walking structures of belief, and each one is more or less unique and different. And maybe this is the yoga practice that has helped. It's certainly studying with you and Vince has helped. And so when I see that, and I can step away from my attachment to her beauty or her anything about her, that she's casting illusions in my head because I'm allowing that. When I can move beyond that and see her as just an ego with beliefs attached to it, and then some other things, all of her shit tests, all of her objections, all of her teasing, all of her anxiety or concern that I see in social interactions, I understand that this is just a result of this program. And so I'm in the process now of mastering better how to navigate this program that other people have, so that we can genuinely connect, and I'm not spending so much time
there it is.
Avoiding shit tests or trying to climb over walls or jump through hoops, or is a common terminology, or anything like this. Like, I want to get to the root of it so that we can connect, or determine that we're not going to connect so I can move on, because time is valuable, And so seeing people as, and it's also a lot of seeing people as energy, just walking energies, auras, and it's fun and playful and genuine for me to assess someone's alignment of their chakra system, assess someone's energy silhouette, and maybe where there's blockages, and interacting with so many people and touching with so many people. There's a lot of kino and social interactions, and there's a lot of touch with the kind of yoga that I do. It's just, the mechanics of it are not so difficult. Put your hand here, say this thing, look away when you do it. But the depth of, and the presence and the patience and the compassion that comes with touch is boundless, and it's unlimited, and it's an infinitely bottomless pit that is a lifelong journey. So, yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, I hope I was succinct enough for you to understand.
Yes, yeah, and then I bring it here. So when let's say you're doing yoga, you have to spread your awareness throughout the whole system, the whole body. Your breathing is a big part of your yoga. Your posture is a big part of yoga. Being aware of the position of your body is a big part of yoga. And connecting the mind and the body is the breath, all that is a big part of the yoga union. And that sensitivity, and I'm teaching now, that sensitivity is a very advantageous position to be in when you're interacting with another human being. To be aware of so many intricacies in a posture, and to have the discipline to hold the posture, or the courage to get into a posture, because some postures require courage. All of these are qualities that a yogi has above the ordinary, what I call now the mundane. It's a new word that I'm using. The mundane are the people who are just the fucking regular people of the world. Like, instead of meteorites, I just call them the mundanes,
Yeah.
The mundane.
That's a common word in yoga scriptures also.
Mundane?
Yeah.
Cool. I got it from this TV show I was watching about these fucking, they kill vampires and shit like that. And then he was like, oh, he's one of the mundane. And they were referring to the weak humans. So I was like, that's fucking perfect. Right? So the yogi has these qualities that he's every single day when he gets on the mat, he's honing these qualities, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he gets others to start to perceive these things in themselves.
Yes.
And so this extension of I'm now experiencing this, now I'm going to communicate to you across distance that you can now experience what I experienced in your body, and there should be a shift in you. People need to understand that this here is the advantage, and the question that I ask is, how does it help you understand the psyche of the woman? This is it. This is that you're honing every single day that you do yoga. You're honing a certain channel that's going to help you understand, see, and communicate better. And then you said kino is a big deal because you're moving bodies and lifting them up, and the acro style that you do. And that's a big deal because you're becoming comfortable every day touching bodies. And this
Absolutely.
is something I had when I got into game and seduction, is I had been teaching martial arts and I was moving people's bodies around.
Absolutely.
And so when somebody had a hard time touching, it was difficult for me when I my whole life been moving bodies with my hands and my energy, you could say. So that's fantastic. And I'm saying that again because if there's anybody out there who is curious about yoga, wanted to know, we're bringing it together, right?
Yeah.
When I do interviews, I'm bringing what I know with the person and their art form and their craft, the time they've spent, and I'm trying to show that where our art forms interact with each other and where they come together and help each other. Okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
I gotta say that,
Yeah.
there was something that always it didn't align with me when I was really getting into yoga. That there were some things that did and some things didn't. It seemed really soft to me. And, well, recently in my research, I found that the word yoga, which comes from the root yuk, that's commonly translated as yoke, is a very modern thing, especially in the last 1,000 to 1,500 years. For the first about 3,000 years that yoga was used, what it meant was when the warrior went to battle for land or resources, that they hoped for a righteous death. And at this righteous death, their spirit would be carried by a chariot that was yoked to the horses and would carry them to the sun god Brahma. So Brahma Loka, the land of Brahma. And so the word yoga was utilized more in the sense of rig, like to rig your chariot to the horses so that it would be carried on to heaven, more or less.
Do you know what the original word was before yoga?
Well, it
How
came
did
from...
they refer to it? How did they refer to it?
It was called yoga. It's just the definition's kind of been hijacked through time,
Changed.
kind of like the word nice. And
Yes.
so at some point when tribal warfare kind of diminished a bit and it was more empire building, there was less going to war for like as a daily regiment. It was more big events, but then it became more householder. So then the idea of sitting in front of your fire and meditating, that started happening, and more, and then war was less and less, and then you saw the birth of asceticism. It's a lot of ascetics, the renunciates of the world, that would just sit and stare at the fire. And then yoga became something more mind and body. I mean, it always was mind and body, but it had that warrior mentality where it was like, in war, if I die, I want to yoke my spirit to the chariot that takes me to the sun god.
Yeah.
And for thousands of years, that's where it is. It was a warrior mentality, and now it's become a little more peace, love, and compassion for everyone outside of yourself, which I'm not saying that's incorrect, but they're believing in that as an ends to, or a means to an end. That there's some kind of enlightenment's going to come out of if I unconditionally love the circumstances around me and the people around me without discernment. That's pathetic. That's going to bury you even deeper into I don't know, it's going to take you further from the point. The point is to have discernment, and the point is to respect yourself and unconditionally to love your own experience of life. And that's real yoga.
I think that what you said is so important. You know, it's so important because you're right, and that should be known. And that was a big deal. That's a big deal. Let me look at that for a second, because that was doing something for me as I was listening to it. Yeah, that's right. Let me explain something.
Please.
The Christian culture has hijacked the world. And that idea of turn the other cheek and love thy neighbor has entered even martial arts and yoga. And these warrior arts have been pissed on by this idea of turn the other cheek and love everyone. Now, I think ultimately, love, as I'm understanding it now through the knowledge of Sapar, there's something to it, for sure. But it's not what people think it is, you know? And I'm not going to give the definition here because I have a very strong definition recently, which I don't think it's time for the world to know yet. But I'm not discrediting how important love is. What I'm saying is that they've taken these powerful arts that can really blow your mind, literally, and they've injected a moral principle inside of it that takes away from the technology of what it was. Yoga is a technology.
Yeah.
It's a shit technology. If you do it properly, many, many doors will open up in your consciousness, as mine has through another route, right? So when you inject into a technology morality, you fuck it up. There's no morality involved in creating an atom bomb. There should be an ethics involved in using it because of the damage that it can do. However, in the creation of it, you follow the laws that create the bomb or anything else. And in the practice of the martial arts or yoga or seduction, that's why my seduction hits so hard. I never tell people whether they should or they shouldn't when it comes to the girl. I say, hey, that's your value-based system, but you do this and you're going to get those results. You got to know the technology. You got to know how it's done. Then you come in as a being and decide how you're going to use it. But let's not muddy it up by, for example, saying you should never talk to a girl who's married. I've been with many married women, and I'll probably be with more married women. Now, that could be right or wrong in opinion, but skill doesn't require your opinion. It requires you fucking practice it properly. The problem is that they actually teach yoga with the moral principle behind it. Like, they force you at the end a lot of time. I mean, they're preaching it. Now let's give thanks and let's give blessings, and I want you to imagine all the beings and spread your love to all the beings. Bitch, I don't want to do that, actually. I was here to gain some fucking insight into my own system and my connection, as above, so below, as within, so without. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to understand cause and effect. I was trying to understand male and female energy in my body. I was trying to go through its whole fucking state of mind, or it's a mental universe. Why am I doing this shit? Don't give me your morals as part of my practice.
Right.
If you do, say it's my opinion is this, but do what you want to fucking do.
Exactly. Yes.
Right? Okay, very good. So let's move forward. Now, how would you think, based on your where you are in pickup and seduction, game of life, how do you think other men can benefit from your yoga? I'm not going to just say yoga because they can go and just shit in their world by doing yoga. But from your yoga, because if you guys are in this group and you're watching, then this is where it's at, right? If you've ever been interested, you contact Chris afterwards. This is what this group is all about. These are people who Chris makes his living off of yoga. Traveling yogi. That's it. So if he's getting paid, it's because he's doing well in yoga. If he's not eating or not getting paid, it's because his yoga sucks or he can't get the word out, right? So that's where I'm going to you guys. Pablo, same thing. It's like, you guys, this is it. You embody your art form. So what can men of Brotherhood of the Wolf or anywhere that are watching this gain from your yoga practice and teachings?
The process of making your mind and your body more supple is indispensable. That the benefits of being able to, at will, be calm and relaxed.
Yeah. What does that do for them? Give us an example, because I get it. But when you give an example, they can apply. Okay, so when would somebody apply that? A supple mind to be turned calm and relaxed. When is a good time for that you can see them benefiting from that?
The approach and the entire interaction. I get comments a lot when I'm in interactions about how calm and relaxed I am, how I seem so serene, and how I move very fluidly, and like when people touch me, I'm very soft and supple, and it's another talking point for them. It's something unusual for them. But to be able to make the approach to a new interaction, and it's not just with women. I mean, when I go prospecting at yoga studios, or when when I approach dogs, I take my dog to dog parks or things like that. Like, it's all energy exchange, and it's all in your mind, really. You're projecting your energy As within, so without, like you said. So the tension that you have internally becomes
Yes.
the tension that you communicate externally.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so the method that I present people with, which has a lot to do with structural analysis and actually doing the poses and the sequence of poses that is right for your body,
Yes.
makes your external world and your internal world more in alignment. It's just a byproduct of doing the practice. It's not that I touch you on your head and it happens, and it's not that you say these words and it happens. It's that you practice consistently a little bit each day, and it will just happen. And that process of aligning the external with the internal makes the ease of every interaction, the ease of your work, and the ease of how you handle the results of your actions.
Yes.
It's much more just an ingredient to your game of life rather than
Yes.
an externality. If it didn't go the way you wanted, then we tried to eliminate that, or we delete it, or we avoid it, or we don't recognize it. And as you will practice, you'll learn that there's really nothing in your mind, there's nothing in your memory banks that you can truly avoid. It's all unavoidable. It will come up eventually, even if you wait until death. It will come up eventually, so handle it before then. And
Did you watch the Diamond Line video today yet?
not from today.
Okay. Remember what you just said. It's in there.
Okay,
I think
cool.
it's a very similar idea you used. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. And so, I don't know if you saw a train come through here, but I just lost my train of thought.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's funny. Okay. That is crucial in seduction, is that relaxed comfort inside. One of the things in my seduction is people feel instant comfort.
Yeah.
Instant comfort. Not to brag, but not to not brag. I was in San Diego 2 weeks ago, and there's a video of two girls in Hooters reading my head as I'm trying to eat. One of those girls, I turned to the person that was with me over there. I said, I'm not looking for a girlfriend, but I want her as my girlfriend. Something about her. Then I called Frank, my sorcerer, and when we were talking, I said, brother, I'm going to get a new girlfriend, but she lives in San Diego. And he's like, well, okay, do you want any help with it as Frank is some sorcerer? I said, no, I appreciate it, thank you, but I don't, because I'm going to do this myself.
Yeah.
And, I know what I can do. It's just that the world hasn't seen me. They've seen me break up, but I haven't had the desire to have a new girlfriend. And I said, there's such a tremendous amount of obstacles in the way. In that she's in San Diego. We hung out for about an hour and a half, if that, because the next day she came over to my hotel. And 1 week later, literally 7 days later, she was my girlfriend.
Wow.
And she had completely changed her life and left everything in San Diego to be with me. This is important because there's a sense of deep comfort that every single one of my girlfriends has felt with me when they met me. A sense of unbelievable level of, I'm so comfortable with you, I've never felt this before. Now, I guarantee people watching that if you internally are not comfortable,
Right.
this effect will never arrive. However, as I watch you, Chris, in your life and pick up, and I'm around you many times, even in this interview, there is a sense of comfort about you. Your practice is visible to me. I see it. So this is going to be something that's going to completely amplify your interaction with everybody. Is people are going to feel like they're comfortable around you. Why? Because you're comfortable around them.
And you're comfortable with yourself. What your girlfriends were probably feeling was how much comfort you had with yourself.
Absolutely.
You got to be able to sit with yourself and be comfortable if you want someone else to be able to sit with you and be comfortable. And we're all seeking that genuine connection, that ability to look at someone and get right to the core like we were talking about. And now studying with you and Vince because you are masters of language and linguists and symbols and pictures and how to create that connection through the ether from one nervous system to the other.
Good explanation. Nice.
And, so when you feel that deep comfort, that sensation of deep comfort with yourself, and you even feel it with another, or you want to feel it with another, you want them to feel it with you, there are tools to facilitate that called language and communication. And you and Vince are the masters of that. So it's cultivating that sense of comfort in yourself and then acquiring the skills to be able to communicate it and evoke it in another person and feel that reciprocation and facilitate it. Because as a guy, and I've made videos on this that recently got me a lot of heat, as a guy, me personally, I want to lead that facilitation. I want to be the guide of it. I want to take her, metaphorically her hand, or physically take her hand, and guide her to the outcome of being comfortable with me. Whether that leads to something more, it doesn't, sorry, my voice cracked, it doesn't matter if it's a sexual thing. Like, I work with females who are studio owners. I work with females who are, graphic designers. People that are not necessarily my students, but they exude that femininity that I like to be the counterpart there. But there needs to be a level, a degree of comfort for the interaction to be even more authentic and to actually get to an outcome that we're both pleased with. So we need the comfort with ourselves, and we need the tools to communicate so that we can facilitate the comfort in the other person. And when we know it with ourselves, then we'll know what it looks like when the other person has it. But we got to know what it looks like when we ourselves are comfortable.
That's right. Very well said. And that's right. And you start to notice tension in other people when it arises.
Yes.
And that's how you calibrate, or that's how I calibrate my communication. I know as I'm speaking, I'm saying certain things that create tension, certain things that create relaxation. So I go with that path of relaxation. Unless I'm trying to upset somebody, then of course I go the opposite path. Both paths are open, though. That's the whole thing. You have to have both sides. Okay, we're going to be wrapping this up. So let's go over a few key things that people are going to want to know. First of all, how do they find you? How do people contact you? How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, I'm very prominent on Facebook. Chris Daksha de Vilbiss. My name will be attached to this video. If they see this video, then you'll be able to contact me. ninthlim.com. Ninthlim is my front for yoga business. And, yeah.
Do you do any
Yoga Bliss Chris.
Do you do any kind of consultations over Skype, or is somebody, let's say someone's having interaction with you, and of course pay for your time, and whatever your price is, that's your price, or maybe free, it's up to you. But do you do that? If let's say I want to talk to you, say, Chris, do you have breathing exercises, meditations, things like that you could give people that are not physically going to be able to be there with you, or not?
Yeah, both in person, and I do many Skype sessions. Lots of physical assessment, postures, breathing, meditation. I'm recently getting really deep into mudras, which are hand gestures. Oh man, that's a beautiful practice. And,
it really is.
Lots of things. Acrobatics, that's a little bit trickier to do over Skype, but yeah, it's all possible.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, and then let me see, something's coming to me. What does everyone need to know about Chris? Chris dies.
Yeah.
And the person who knows Chris best gets up and says, "This is what you need to know about Chris. This was the essence of this guy."
I think that whoever got up and spoke would say Chris was very driven. He was very intelligent, and he let no one shake him from his path. And when he went down a path, when he made a decision to go down a path, there was no doubt. There was no insanity. He listened to reason. I saw him on multiple occasions become convinced of better options. But there was an absolute conviction that would not allow hate or confrontation sway him. And there was always a sense of protective aura that I felt around him that I know carried him beyond after he left his body.
There you go. There you go. Beautiful answer. And I recommend for everybody watching to be able to answer that. You know, what do we need to know about you? If you died and your soulmate got up, you again got up to tell us this is what you need to know about so and so. And then I will extend that in this process because you wasn't watching this as a teaching. If your enemy got up, what do you want them to say about you? And that's going to determine, once you know that answer, how you're going to interact with your enemies. If your family got up, what should they say about you? The people, your lovers, if they got up, what should they say about you? Your allies, what should they say about you? The people who learn from you, what should they say about you? And finally, a stranger walking down the street looks at you and gets up and says, this is what you should know about this man. I got it in one moment when I looked at him or her. Answer all those as a I don't want to call it homework. You call it homework, which is funny, but answer as a project, and it will take your consciousness to another level. Chris, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, brother. I look forward to seeing you and Global SLR and moving on and continue to create great things together. The next time that you're going to come down here, let's do some research and take you, go into all the fucking yoga studios and hopefully set up a seminar for you when you come to San Jose, okay?
Fuck yeah. Namaste,
Okay,
Arash. Thank you, brother.
Namaste, brother. Put this up as soon as you got it. It's yours.
You know it.
Okay, later.